I'm Seraphina, 26 years old, and I just discovered that my entire life has been built on the most devastating lie imaginable. Standing in my grandmother's attorney's office 3 days after her funeral, holding documents that would destroy my family forever, I realized that the parents who treated me like their personal servant for decades weren't actually my parents at all. The woman I'd called Mom had stolen me as a baby, and the grandmother who secretly loved me had been planning her revenge from beyond the grave for years. But before I tell you how I brought down their empire of lies, let me ask you something. Where are you watching this from? Drop your location in the comments below. And if you're ready for a family drama that'll make your jaw drop harder than a soap opera finale, smash that like button and hit subscribe, because this story has more twists than a pretzel factory. Trust me, you'll want to stick around to see how karma served justice colder than a Chicago winter. Growing up in the Morrison household meant one thing: I was the help, not the daughter. While my sister Brittany got designer clothes and college tuition, I got hand-me-downs and a list of chores longer than my arm. Every morning started at 5 a.m. Make breakfast, pack lunches, clean the kitchen before school. Every evening meant laundry, dinner, prep, and whatever else Patricia Morrison deemed necessary for her precious family's comfort. Seraphina, the bathrooms need scrubbing, Patricia would call from her throne-like recliner, never looking up from her reality TV shows. And make sure you clean behind the toilet this time. Brittany's bringing her boyfriend over. David Morrison, the man I called Dad, was no better. He'd grunt acknowledgments when I served his beer, complain about my grades while praising Brittany's mediocre performance, and constantly remind me how lucky I was that they'd taken me in. The story never changed. My biological parents had died in a car accident when I was 6 months old, and the Morrisons, being such generous souls, had adopted their friend's orphaned baby. But Grandma Rose saw everything differently. Patricia's mother lived in the guest house behind our property, and she became my sanctuary. While my parents treated me like hired help, Grandma Rose treated me like precious cargo. She'd sneak me cookies, help with homework, and tell me stories about strong women who overcame impossible odds. "You're special, Seraphina," she'd whisper during our secret tea times. "More special than they know. One day the truth will set you free." I thought she was just being kind. How wrong I was. 3 months ago, Grandma Rose started acting strange. She'd ask odd questions about my earliest memories, about whether I ever wondered why I looked nothing like Patricia or David. She'd stare at me with tears in her eyes and mutter things like, "Soon, baby girl. Soon you'll know everything." Then came the night that changed everything. I was scrubbing the kitchen floor after hosting one of Patricia's dinner parties. Naturally, I wasn't invited to sit at the table despite cooking the entire meal, when I heard raised voices from Grandma Rose's cottage. Patricia and David were over there, which was unusual since they barely tolerated the old woman's existence. Curiosity got the better of me. I crept across the backyard and positioned myself under Grandma Rose's kitchen window. "You can't tell her." Mother Patricia's voice was sharp with panic. "After all these years, you can't destroy our family now." Family Grandma Rose's voice was stronger than I'd heard it in months. "You call what you've done to that girl family. You've used her as slave labor for 26 years, Patricia. 26 years of lies." "We gave her a home," David protested. "We could have put her in foster care." "Put her in foster care?" Grandma Rose's laugh was bitter. "You stole her from her real family, you monsters. Her parents never died in any car accident. You kidnapped that baby because you couldn't have children of your own, and when the miracle happened and you got pregnant with Brittany, you turned that innocent child into your personal servant." My blood turned to ice. The ground seemed to tilt beneath my feet. "That's enough," Patricia hissed. "We're not having this conversation again. Seraphina is our daughter, legally adopted, and that's the end of it." "Legally adopted with forged documents," Grandma Rose shot back. "I've kept every piece of evidence, Patricia. Every newspaper clipping about the missing baby. Every letter from her real family begging for information. Every bribe you paid to keep people quiet. It's all in my safety deposit box." The silence that followed was deafening. "What do you want?" David's voice was defeated. I want you to tell her the truth before I die, Grandma Rose said. Or I will. And when I do, I'm also going to tell her about the trust fund her real grandmother set up, the one you've been stealing from for years. $3 million that was meant for her education and future money you've been using to fund your lifestyle while making her scrub your toilets. $3 million. My real family had left me $3 million. Patricia's response was predictable. You senile old woman, nobody will believe you. Seraphina won't believe you. Oh, but they will, Grandma Rose's voice carried a smile I could hear. Because I have DNA evidence, hospital records, and a private investigator's report that proves everything. Your daughter has been living a lie, and her real family has been searching for her for 26 years. I stumbled backward, my mind reeling. Everything I thought I knew about my life was a fabrication. These people who'd worked me to the bone, who'd made me feel grateful for scraps while they lived in luxury, had stolen me from my real family. But Grandma Rose wasn't finished. I've already made contact with her real family, Patricia. They're wonderful people. Successful, loving everything you pretended to be. Her real father is a respected surgeon, her mother is a university professor, and she has 2 older brothers who never stopped looking for their baby sister. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. I had brothers. Real brothers who'd been searching for me. When I die, Grandma Rose continued, my attorney has instructions to contact Seraphina immediately. She'll learn everything. About the kidnapping, about the money you stole, about the family that loves her and has been waiting for her return. And then, Patricia, your precious, perfect life will crumble. That was 3 weeks ago. Last Tuesday, Grandma Rose died peacefully in her sleep. At her funeral, Patricia cried crocodile tears while David gave a speech about what a wonderful mother and grandmother she'd been. Brittany complained about having to wear black because it washed her out. I cried real tears knowing I'd lost the only person who'd ever truly loved me in that house. But as I stood by her grave, Patricia's attorney approached me with an envelope. Miss Morrison, he said quietly, your grandmother left specific instructions for you to receive this immediately after the service. Inside was a key and an address, the location of Grandma Rose's safety deposit box, and a letter that would change everything. The letter in my trembling hands was written in Grandma Rose's careful script, and every word felt like a bomb exploding in my chest. My dearest Seraphina, if you're reading this, I'm finally at peace, and you're about to learn the truth that's been eating at my soul for 26 years. Your name isn't Seraphina Morrison. It's Seraphina Catherine Blackwell. You were born to Dr. Marcus Blackwell and Professor Elena Blackwell on March 15th, and you have 2 brothers, Alexander, who's now 32 and a federal prosecutor, and Gabriel, who's 29 and runs a non-profit organization. Patricia stole you from a hospital nursery when you were 3 days old. She and David had been trying to have children for years, and when she heard about the beautiful baby girl born to the wealthy Blackwell family, her jealousy consumed her. She worked at the hospital as a nurse back then and had access to everything she needed to make you disappear. The Blackwells never stopped searching. They hired private investigators, offered rewards, and kept your case active with the FBI for decades. Your real family is extraordinary, my dear. Nothing like the monsters who raised you. They've been waiting for you to come home. In the safety deposit box, you'll find DNA evidence, the original police reports, hospital records, and documentation of every penny Patricia and David stole from your trust fund. Your real grandmother, Catherine Blackwell, the woman you were named after, established a $3 million trust for your future. Patricia has been draining it for years to fund their lifestyle. But here's what they don't know: I've been documenting everything. Every purchase they made with your money, every lie they told, every time they treated you like a servant instead of a daughter. I've been building a case that will destroy them legally and financially. Your real family's contact information is in the box. They're waiting for you, sweetheart. They never gave up hope. Get your justice, my brave girl. Make them pay for what they stole from you. All my love, Grandma Rose. P.S. I've also included evidence of Patricia's other crimes. She's been embezzling from her employer for years. When you're ready, you have everything you need to take her down completely. I sat in my car outside the bank for an hour, letter clutched in my hands, processing 26 years of lies. The family that had made me feel unwanted had literally stolen me from people who loved me. The money they'd used to send Brittany to private school and buy Patricia designer purses was rightfully mine. Every moment of feeling grateful for their generosity had been a sick joke. But as the initial shock wore off, something else took its place, cold, calculating fury. I wasn't just going to run to my real family and disappear. I was going to make Patricia and David pay for every single day they'd stolen from me. They wanted to play games. I'd spent 26 years learning how to be strategic, how to stay invisible while watching everything. Time to put those skills to use. The safety deposit box was a treasure trove of evidence. Hospital records showing Patricia's access to the nursery the night I disappeared, bank statements proving they'd been stealing from my trust fund, police reports detailing the investigation into my disappearance, photos of the missing person flyers the Blackwells had plastered across the country. But the most damning evidence was Grandma Rose's detailed log. For years, she'd been documenting Patricia's embezzlement from her job at the accounting firm where she worked as a senior bookkeeper. Forged invoices, manipulated client accounts, falsified records. Patricia had been running schemes that made stealing a baby look amateur. I photographed everything, stored copies in 3 different cloud accounts, and began planning my revenge. First, I needed to confirm my identity. The DNA test Grandma Rose had secretly conducted matched samples she'd somehow obtained from the Blackwells. The results were definitive. I was their daughter. Second, I researched my real family. Dr. Marcus Blackwell was indeed a renowned heart surgeon. Professor Elena Blackwell taught literature at Northwestern University. Alexander Blackwell was an assistant U.S. attorney who specialized in white-collar crime. Gabriel Blackwell ran a foundation that helped families of missing children. They were everything Patricia and David pretended to be. Successful, educated, genuinely good people who used their privilege to help others instead of exploiting the vulnerable. But I didn't contact them yet. I had work to do first. Living in the Morrison house suddenly became a different kind of performance. Every morning when Patricia barked orders from her chair, I smiled and complied while calculating exactly how much money she'd stolen from me to fund her lazy lifestyle. When David complained about my attitude while drinking beer I'd bought with money from my trust fund, I nodded respectfully while planning his downfall. The hardest part was pretending nothing had changed. Patricia and David were clearly nervous about what Grandma Rose might have told me, watching my reactions carefully, but my years of invisible servitude had taught me how to hide my true feelings perfectly. "You seem different since Grandma's funeral," Patricia commented one evening as I served dinner. More focused. "I'm just missing her," I lied smoothly. "She was the only one who really cared about me in this house." Patricia's face tightened, but she couldn't argue without revealing more than she wanted to. Meanwhile, I was busy. During my lunch breaks at the coffee shop where I worked part-time, I researched federal kidnapping laws, statutes of limitations for embezzlement, and the contact information for the FBI agent who'd originally handled my case. Agent Sarah Chen, who was apparently still active and had kept my file open all these years. I discovered that Patricia's embezzlement from her current employer was ongoing. Her position as senior bookkeeper at Hartwell and Associates gave her access to millions in client funds, and according to Grandma Rose's evidence, she'd been skimming systematically for over a decade. The beautiful irony wasn't lost on me. Patricia had stolen a child because she was desperate for the perfect family, but her greed had made her sloppy. She'd left a paper trail that would destroy everything she'd built. But timing was crucial. I needed to coordinate everything perfectly. The reunion with my real family, the exposure of the kidnapping, the evidence of embezzlement, and the recovery of my stolen trust fund. This wasn't just about getting justice. It was about making sure Patricia and David lost everything, just like they'd made my real family lose me. As I lay in my tiny bedroom, the smallest room in the house while Brittany had a master suite, I smiled for the first time in weeks. They had no idea what was coming. The next phase of my plan required something I'd never had before: allies. For 26 years, I'd been isolated, with only Grandma Rose as my true support system. Now, I needed to build a network of people who could help me take down the Morrison empire of lies. My first call was to Agent Sarah Chen. According to the files, she'd been a rookie when my case first crossed her desk, but she'd never forgotten about the missing Blackwell baby. When I called the FBI field office and asked to speak with her about an old kidnapping case, she took my call within minutes. Agent Chen speaking. I understand you have information about a historical kidnapping, Agent Chen. My name is Seraphina Morrison, but I believe my real name is Seraphina Catherine Blackwell. I think I'm the baby who was kidnapped from Northwestern Memorial Hospital 26 years ago. The silence on the other end stretched for what felt like eternity. Miss Blackwell. Agent Chen's voice was carefully controlled, but I could hear the excitement underneath. I'm going to need you to come in immediately. Don't discuss this with anyone else until we meet. Can you be at the field office in 2 hours? I'll be there. The FBI building was intimidating, but Agent Chen was exactly what I'd hoped for. A sharp, no-nonsense woman in her early 50s, who'd clearly never stopped caring about my case. Her office walls were covered with photos of solved cases, and I noticed a small frame containing my original missing person poster in a place of honor. I've thought about you at least once a week for 26 years, she said after reviewing the DNA evidence and Grandma Rose's documentation. Your family, they never gave up hope. Your mother still calls me every few months asking if there are any new leads. The emotion in her voice almost broke my resolve to stay focused on justice rather than reunion. What happens now? I asked. Now we build a case that will put Patricia and David Morrison away for life, Agent Chen said grimly. Kidnapping across state lines carries federal charges. But first, we need to verify everything and coordinate with local authorities on the embezzlement charges. She introduced me to Detective Mike Rodriguez, a financial crimes specialist who nearly fell off his chair when he saw the evidence of Patricia's accounting firm theft. This is the most comprehensive embezzlement documentation I've ever seen, he said, scrolling through Grandma Rose's files. Your grandmother was basically doing our job for us. Look at this. She tracked every falsified invoice, every manipulated account, every illegal transfer. Patricia Morrison has stolen over $2 million from her employer. $2 million on top of the $3 million she stole from me, I said quietly. We'll get every penny back, Agent Chen promised. But Seraphina, there's something else we need to discuss. Your family. They deserve to know you're alive and safe. My stomach clenched with nervous excitement. What are they like? Agent Chen's expression softened. They're remarkable people. After you disappeared, they started a foundation that's helped locate over 300 missing children. They've never stopped fighting for families like theirs. Your brother Alexander uses his position as a federal prosecutor to pursue child trafficking cases. Gabriel's nonprofit provides support services for families of missing children. They turned their pain into purpose, I whispered. And they're going to be overjoyed to know you're coming home. But I wasn't ready for reunion yet. I needed to finish what Grandma Rose had started. Agent Chen agreed to give me time to orchestrate Patricia and David's downfall, but with conditions. I'd wear a wire during conversations with them, document any admissions of guilt, and check in daily with the FBI team. The next step was securing legal representation. Using information from Grandma Rose's files, I contacted the law firm that had originally represented the Blackwell family, Morrison, Klein and Associates. The irony of the name wasn't lost on me. Attorney Jennifer Morrison, no relation to my kidnappers, thankfully, was a formidable woman who specialized in complex family law and financial crimes. When I walked into her office with boxes of evidence, her eyes lit up like Christmas morning. This is an attorney's dream case, she said after reviewing everything. We have kidnapping, embezzlement, fraud, identity theft, and conversion of trust funds. The Morrisons are going to lose everything they own and spend the rest of their lives in federal prison. What about civil damages? Conservatively, you're looking at 15 to 20 million in damages. The stolen trust fund, lost opportunities, emotional distress, punitive damages, we're going to destroy them financially even before they go to prison. Jennifer introduced me to her partner, David Klein, a financial forensics expert who began tracing exactly how my trust fund money had been spent over the years. It's sickening, he reported after 3 days of investigation. They used your college fund to buy Brittany a car. Your inheritance paid for their house renovations. Money that was meant for your future funded their entire lifestyle while they made you work like a servant. But the most shocking discovery came when we dug deeper into Patricia's background. She's done this before, Jennifer revealed during our fourth meeting. Not kidnapping, but identity fraud. Before she met David, she assumed the identity of a deceased woman and used that identity to get her nursing license. The real Patricia Morrison died in a car accident when she was 18. Your kidnapper has been living under a stolen name for over 30 years. The woman who stole me had stolen her entire identity from a dead girl. Armed with this information, I felt ready to accelerate my timeline. But I wanted one more ally, someone inside the Morrison household who could help me document their reactions when everything came crashing down. Surprisingly, that ally came from an unexpected source, Brittany. I'd always assumed Brittany was as callous as her parents, but when I observed her more carefully, I noticed things I'd missed before. She was drinking more than usual. She seemed nervous around Patricia and David, and she kept looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite identify. The breakthrough came when I found her crying in the garage after another one of Patricia's tirades about her ungrateful attitude. "Brittany, are you okay?" She looked up with red, puffy eyes. "Sarah, can I ask you something?" It was the first time she'd called me by my name instead of just shouting orders. "Of course. Do you ever feel like something's really wrong with our family? Like fundamentally wrong?" My heart started racing. "What do you mean I found something in Mom's jewelry box last week?" she whispered. "Old newspaper clippings about a missing baby. And there was a photo. The baby looked exactly like you did when you were little." She knew. Or at least, she suspected. "Brittany," I said carefully, "what do you think those clippings meant?" "I think," she said, fresh tears streaming down her face, "that my parents stole you. And I think they've been using you as slave labor your entire life while spending money that belonged to you. And I think I've been complicit in it because I was too scared to ask questions. For the first time in my life, I saw my sister as a potential ally instead of an enemy." "If you're right," I said slowly, "what would you want to do about it?" "I'd want to help you get justice," she said without hesitation, "even if it meant losing everything." And just like that, I had an inside source who could help me document Patricia and David's crimes from within their own house. The trap was set. The allies were in place. The evidence was overwhelming. Time to bring down the Morrison House of Lies. The final phase began on a Tuesday morning that started like any other in the Morrison household. Patricia barked her usual orders from the kitchen table while scrolling through her phone. David grunted over his coffee, and Brittany pretended to eat breakfast while secretly recording everything on her phone. "Seraphina, the guest bathroom needs deep cleaning today," Patricia announced without looking up. "And make sure you scrub the baseboards. Brittany's college friends are coming over this weekend." "Of course," I replied, my voice steady despite the wire taped to my chest. Anything else, this was it. The moment Agent Chen and I had planned. Patricia's guard was completely down, and David was about to leave for work. Perfect timing for the conversation that would end their 26-year charade. "Actually, Patricia," I said, setting down the breakfast dishes I'd been clearing, "I've been wondering about something Grandma Rose mentioned before she died." Both Patricia and David froze. The change in atmosphere was instant and electric. "What? What did she mention?" Patricia's voice was carefully controlled, but I could see her knuckles whitening as she gripped her coffee mug. "She said something about my real parents, about how they didn't actually die in a car accident." The silence that followed was deafening. David's coffee cup clattered against his saucer. Brittany, positioned at the kitchen island with her phone, captured every micro-expression. That senile old woman didn't know what she was talking about, Patricia said, but her voice cracked. You know how confused she got near the end. She seemed pretty clear when she told me about the safety deposit box. I continued watching David's face drain of all color. And about the DNA evidence. And about the $3 million you've been stealing from my trust fund for 26 years. Patricia shot to her feet so fast her chair toppled backward. How dare you accuse us of— I'm not accusing you of anything, I said calmly. I'm stating facts. Facts that I've already shared with the FBI, the Financial Crimes Unit, and my real family's attorneys. David made a choking sound. Your real family, Dr. Marcus and Professor Elena Blackwell. You remember them, don't you, Patricia? The parents whose 3-day-old baby you kidnapped from Northwestern Memorial Hospital 26 years ago. Patricia's face cycled through every shade of pale before settling on a sickly gray. You can't prove any of that. Actually, I can. I pulled out my phone and opened the photo gallery showing them clear images of every document from Grandma Rose's safety deposit box. Hospital records showing your access to the nursery. Bank statements proving you've been stealing from my trust fund. Police reports from my original missing person investigation. DNA evidence confirming I'm Seraphina Catherine Blackwell. Should I continue? David slumped in his chair like a deflated balloon. Oh, God. Oh, God, it's over. Shut up, David, Patricia snapped, but her composure was cracking. She's bluffing. She can't. I've also got evidence of your embezzlement from Hartwell and Associates, I continued relentlessly. $2 million stolen from client accounts over the past decade. Grandma Rose documented everything, Patricia. Every falsified invoice, every manipulated account, every illegal transfer. Patricia's legs gave out. She collapsed back into her chair, staring at me with the expression of a cornered animal. But here's my favorite part, I said, savoring every word. Your real name isn't even Patricia Morrison, is it? It's Jennifer Walsh. Patricia Morrison died in a car accident when she was 18, and you stole her identity to become a nurse. So you're not just a kidnapper and embezzler. You're also guilty of identity fraud spanning 3 decades. The confession that followed was everything Agent Chen had hoped for. How? Patricia whispered. How did you figure it all out, Grandma? Rose never stopped investigating, I said. She spent 26 years collecting evidence and waiting for the right moment to destroy you. She knew what kind of monsters you really were. David finally found his voice. Sarah, please. We gave you a home. We raised you. Doesn't that count for something? The rage I'd been suppressing for weeks finally broke through my careful control. A home, I stood up, letting years of suppressed fury fuel my words. You gave me a prison. You stole me from parents who loved me and turned me into your personal slave. You used my inheritance money to fund your lifestyle while making me grateful for table scraps. You made me believe I was worthless while my real family spent 26 years searching for me. Brittany was crying openly now, still recording everything. My real parents put me through college, I continued. I was supposed to have opportunities, love, support. Instead, I got 26 years of servitude while you spent my money on luxuries and treated me like hired help. Patricia tried one last desperate play. You'll never be able to prove we knew about the money or the identity theft. Our lawyers will, your lawyers will. What? I pulled out another document. Recommend you take whatever plea deal the federal prosecutor offers. Because that federal prosecutor is Alexander Blackwell, my real brother. And he's very motivated to see justice done for his baby sister. The reality of their situation finally hit home. David started hyperventilating. Patricia stared at me with pure hatred, but underneath I could see the fear of someone who knew their world was about to collapse. The FBI will be here in about 20 minutes, I announced, checking my watch. Agent Chen wanted to give you time to process what's happening before they arrest you for federal kidnapping charges, embezzlement, and identity fraud. What about Brittany? David asked, desperately. She's innocent in all this. For the first time, I looked at my sister with something approaching compassion. Brittany has chosen to cooperate with the investigation, I said. She's going to testify about what she witnessed growing up in this house. In exchange, she'll face no charges and will receive counseling to help her process the trauma of learning her parents are criminals. Patricia's head snapped toward Brittany. You little traitor. I'm not a traitor for choosing right over wrong, Brittany said, her voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. You kidnapped my sister and made us all live a lie. Sierra deserved love, not slavery. The sound of cars pulling into our driveway announced the arrival of Agent Chen's team. Through the window, I could see black SUVs and unmarked cars surrounding the house. This is really happening, David whispered. Yes, I said, feeling a satisfaction deeper than anything I'd ever experienced. This is really happening. Justice is finally being served. The next few hours unfolded like a perfectly choreographed dance of justice. Agent Chen led a team of 12 federal agents through our front door at exactly 9:30 a.m., armed with arrest warrants, search warrants, and 26 years of pent-up determination to close the Blackwell kidnapping case. Patricia Morrison, also known as Jennifer Walsh, you're under arrest for federal kidnapping, embezzlement, and identity fraud, Agent Chen announced, as two agents moved to restrain Patricia, who had gone completely catatonic. David fared no better. David Morrison, you're under arrest as an accessory to kidnapping and conspiracy to commit fraud. His legs buckled as they read him his rights, and he had to be physically supported by the arresting officers. I stood in the kitchen I'd cleaned thousands of times, watching my captors being led away in handcuffs, and felt a sense of completion that was almost spiritual. Brittany clutched my arm, both of us crying, her from guilt and grief, me from overwhelming relief. Is it really over? She whispered. The criminal part is just beginning, I told her. But our part, yes, it's over. Agent Chen approached us after Patricia and David had been loaded into separate vehicles. Seraphina, there are some people here who've been waiting 26 years to see you. My heart stopped. Through the front window, I could see a luxury sedan parked behind the FBI vehicles. 3 people stood beside it, barely restrained by the agents, keeping them at a safe distance while the arrest was conducted. Even from 50 feet away, I could see the family resemblance. The tall man with dark hair had my nose and jawline. The elegant woman beside him had my exact eye color and the same way of holding her shoulders. And the younger man, my brother Gabriel, was practically bouncing with barely contained excitement. Are you ready, Agent? Chen asked gently. I nodded, not trusting my voice. The walk from the front door to that sedan was the longest and shortest journey of my life. Every step took me further from 26 years of lies and closer to the family I'd been stolen from. Doctor. Marcus Blackwell reached me first. He stopped 3 feet away, his eyes drinking in every detail of my face, tears streaming down his cheeks. Seraphina Catherine, he whispered. My baby girl. Daddy. The word came out broken and small like the 3-day-old infant who'd last seen him. He opened his arms and I fell into them like coming home. The hug lasted forever and not nearly long enough. He smelled like expensive cologne and antiseptic, a surgeon's scent, and when he held me, I felt safer than I'd ever felt in my life. Professor Elena Blackwell, my real mother, was next. She cupped my face in her hands, studying every feature. You have your grandmother's eyes, she said, her voice thick with emotion. Catherine would have been so proud of the strong woman you've become. I was named after her, I managed to say. Yes, sweetheart. She died 2 months before you were born, and she was so excited to meet her granddaughter. Gabriel, unable to wait any longer, swept me into a bear hug that lifted me off my feet. I knew you were alive, he said fiercely. I never stopped believing we'd find you. Alex is going to lose his mind when he gets here. He's flying in from D.C. as soon as he can get away from court. You both work in fields that help people like me, I said, still trying to process that I had brothers who'd spent their careers fighting for justice. We turned our pain into purpose, Gabriel confirmed. Every missing child we help find brings us closer to this moment. Standing there, surrounded by my real family, I understood what I'd been missing my entire life. This was what unconditional love looked like. This was what it meant to belong somewhere. But the reunion was interrupted by Detective Rodriguez, who needed to walk me through the evidence seizure happening inside the house. We're taking everything he explained as agents carried out boxes of financial records, computers, and personal documents. Patricia's laptop alone contains enough evidence to put her away for 20 years. She kept detailed records of every penny she stole from your trust fund. The financial forensics were staggering. Over 26 years, Patricia and David had stolen nearly $4 million. $3 million from my trust fund and an additional million from Patricia's employer. They'd used my money to purchase their house fund, Brittany's private education, take luxury vacations, and maintain a lifestyle completely beyond their legitimate means. "What happens to Brittany?" I asked, watching my sister pack a suitcase with shaking hands. "She's 22 and had no knowledge of the crimes until recently," Detective Rodriguez said. "She's technically a victim, too. The house will be seized as proceeds of crime, but she'll be allowed to take her personal belongings." Dr. Blackwell overheard this exchange. "She can stay with us until she gets on her feet," he offered immediately. "She's been your sister for 26 years. As far as we're concerned, that makes her family." That generosity, extending kindness to the daughter of my kidnappers, told me everything I needed to know about the people who'd raised her. The contrast to the Morrisons' selfish cruelty was stark and beautiful. The media arrived before noon. News vans lined the street, and reporters shouted questions over the police barriers. The story was already breaking on social media. Missing heiress found after 26 years, kidnapped baby raised as servant by captors, FBI solves decades-old kidnapping case. Agent Chen shielded me from the chaos, but I caught glimpses of the headlines on reporters' phones. My story was going viral, and public outrage was building by the hour. "The FBI will handle all media inquiries for now," she assured me. "You don't have to say anything until you're ready." But I was ready. Standing there with my real family, watching my kidnapper's house being dismantled by federal agents, I felt ready to tell the world exactly what the Morrisons had done. Justice wasn't just being served, it was being documented for everyone to see. The 26-year nightmare was finally over, and my real life was about to begin. 6 months later, I stood in a federal courthouse watching Patricia Morrison, whose real name we'd discovered was actually Jennifer Walsh, receive a sentence of 30 years in federal prison for kidnapping, embezzlement, identity fraud. David got 25 years as an accessory. They would both be in their 80s before they saw freedom again, if they lived that long. The judge's words still ring in my ears. The defendants committed crimes that go beyond theft of money or even identity. They stole a child's entire life, her relationship with her loving family, and 26 years of experiences that can never be recovered. This court finds their actions particularly heinous, given how they treated their victim. Not as a beloved adopted daughter, but as unpaid domestic labor, while enriching themselves with her rightful inheritance. My real family, I'd stopped thinking of them as anything but my family, filled the first row of the courtroom. Dr. Marcus Blackwell held my hand throughout the sentencing. Professor Elena kept tissues ready for my tears of relief. Gabriel live tweeted updates to the thousands of followers who'd been following my story. And Alexander, who'd recused himself from the prosecution to avoid conflicts of interest, sat beside me as my protective older brother, not the federal prosecutor who would have loved to handle this case personally. The financial recovery exceeded everyone's expectations. The civil lawsuit Jennifer Morrison Klein and Associates filed against Patricia and David resulted in a judgment of $18 million, the largest ever awarded in a kidnapping case in Illinois. My trust fund was fully restored with 26 years of interest and penalties. The house Patricia and David had purchased with my money was sold along with all their other assets to pay restitution. But the money, while gratifying, wasn't the real victory. The real victory was Brittany, who'd completed 6 months of intensive therapy and had just been accepted to Northwestern University's social work program. She wanted to work with families affected by trauma and abuse, turning her own experience into purpose just like Gabriel and Alexander had done. I want to help other people who've been living with family secrets, she told me during one of our weekly coffee dates. I lived in that house for 22 years and never questioned why they treated you so differently. I want to make sure other people recognize the signs. Brittany moved in with my parents after the arrest, and watching them embrace her as a daughter was one of the most beautiful things I'd ever witnessed. They understood that she'd been victimized too, manipulated and lied to her entire life, raised by criminals who'd taught her that love was conditional, and family loyalty meant silence about wrongdoing. Family isn't just about biology, my mother told her on her first night in our house. It's about love, support, and choosing to show up for each other. You've shown up for Seraphina when it mattered most. That makes you our daughter. My real relationship with the Blackwells had been everything I'd dreamed of and nothing I'd expected. They didn't try to reclaim 26 lost years or pretend we could instantly have the bond we'd missed. Instead, they let me set the pace, supporting me through months of therapy while I processed the trauma of my stolen childhood. Dr. Blackwell, Dad, never missed a weekly lunch date even when emergency surgeries ran late. He'd arrive at whatever restaurant I'd chosen, still in scrubs sometimes, and listen to me talk about my fears, my anger, my joy at discovering what real family looked like. Professor Elena, Mom, helped me navigate my decision to go back to school. At 26, with only a high school diploma because Patricia had convinced me I wasn't college material, I'd felt intimidated by the prospect of higher education. But with my trust fund restored and my family's support, I was now a sophomore at Northwestern majoring in criminology with a focus on human trafficking. You want to study the crimes committed against you, my academic advisor had asked, concerned. I want to understand them so I can prevent them from happening to other children, I'd replied. Gabriel's nonprofit offered me an internship that turned into a full-time position working with families of missing children. There was something powerful about being able to tell desperate parents, I know exactly what you're going through and I'm here to help you. Never give up hope. Alexander taught me about the legal system, walking me through every aspect of Patricia and David's prosecution. Understanding how justice worked, how evidence was gathered and presented, gave me a sense of control I'd never had before. But perhaps the most unexpected development was my relationship with Agent Chen. She'd become like a godmother to me, the person who'd never stopped looking for me even when my own case went cold. She was there for every major milestone. My first day of college, my first date with a wonderful man named Thomas, who treated me like the treasure my family always said I was. My decision to speak publicly about my experience. The media attention was intense but purposeful. My story sparked national conversations about hospital security background checks for childcare workers and the signs of family trafficking that neighbors and teachers should watch for. I testified before Congress about strengthening Amber Alert systems and improving coordination between state and federal agencies in kidnapping cases. I'm not just telling my story for closure, I explained to the House Judiciary Committee. I'm telling it because there are other children out there being raised by people who stole them. There are other families searching for their missing children. And there are signs that people miss because they assume that if a child is living with adults who claim to be family, everything must be fine. The documentary that Netflix produced about my case won an Emmy. The book I wrote, with the help of a ghostwriter, became a bestseller. But more importantly, it led to the identification of 3 other children who'd been kidnapped and were being raised in similar circumstances. Standing on the steps of the courthouse after Patricia and David's sentencing, surrounded by the family that never stopped looking for me and the sister who chose justice over comfort, I finally understood what Grandma Rose had meant. When she said I was special, I wasn't special because I'd survived. I was special because I'd learned to recognize love when I found it, to value justice over comfort, and to understand that family is something you build with people who show up for you when it matters. Have you ever had to choose between what felt safe and what was right? Drop a comment below and let me know. I read every single one, and I love hearing your stories. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more real-life family drama that'll make you grateful for the people who truly love you. Share this with someone who needs to hear that justice really can prevail, even when it takes 26 years. Thank you for joining me on this journey of discovery, revenge, and finding my way home. Remember, family isn't always about blood, but it's always about love, loyalty, and showing up when it counts. Until next time, keep fighting for your truth.